My own son stood on the porch, blocking the entrance to his house with his arms locked tight. He looked me dead in the eye and told me that I was not allowed inside while the family of his wife was visiting. In that silent moment, something shattered inside me. I turned around, walked back to my sedan, and dialed my attorney before my hand even touched the ignition key. My name is Arthur Vance. For 35 years, I worked as the Chief Inspector of Safety for the Metropolitan Water District, ensuring that the local pipelines remained clean and secure. My entire career was built on verifying facts and preventing hidden toxins from poisoning unsuspecting families. Ironically, I spent so much time protecting the public that I failed to notice the poison bubbling up within my own household. My wife Martha and I have been happily married for nearly 40 years. She is the kind of woman who remembers every birthday and coordinates community food drives with military precision. Together, we raised one son named Connor, who eventually married a sharp paralegal named Natalie. We used to be a close family, gathering for dinners every weekend while my best friend Raymond joined us to drink cider and debate local sports. We did not know that Connor and Natalie were drowning in massive debt from a failing gourmet market they opened downtown. Natalie was desperate to save their investment, and she began dropping subtle hints about our financial planning. She asked if we had ever secured a living trust to protect our property on Oak Avenue. I dismissed the question at the time, assuming she was just offering casual professional advice. Then, the anomalies began to pile up in ways I could not ignore. A representative from a local title company called our home to verify an appointment we had never scheduled. Soon after, several of our monthly bank statements simply vanished from the mailbox before we could retrieve them. One afternoon, I overheard Natalie pleading on the phone for 6 more months to execute her secret plan to rescue the business. The truth finally surfaced when I visited our local financial institution to add Martha to a long-term deposit account. The manager, Susan Finch, stared at her monitor with a look of pure confusion before turning the screen toward me. A legal power of attorney had been registered against my accounts 3 months prior. The document granted Natalie full control over my finances, my bank accounts, and my real estate. I drove immediately to the county records office to examine the physical paperwork with my own eyes. There was my name typed in bold letters, accompanied by a signature that looked vaguely like mine but was a clear imitation. A notary stamp from a woman named Beverly Gentry validated the document. Attached to the file was an unrecorded deed transfer, waiting quietly to strip the ownership of my home. That evening, I called Raymond and explained the terrifying discovery in a voice that did not even sound like my own. My loyal friend listened in stunned silence before urging me to find out if Connor was involved. Raymond warned me that the financial betrayal would sting, but the betrayal from my own flesh and blood would break my heart. He was entirely correct, and the thought kept me awake all night. The next day, I retained a fierce estate litigator named Victoria Thorne, who was famous for her ruthless approach to fraud. Victoria analyzed the paperwork, laughed dryly, and informed me that the notary stamp was completely fabricated. There was no record of any notary public named Beverly Gentry in our state. Natalie had manufactured the entire document using templates from the law firm where she worked as a paralegal. Victoria immediately initiated an emergency revocation to freeze any pending transfers of my property with the county. She then issued formal subpoenas to obtain the digital records from the employer of Natalie. Victoria advised me to remain absolutely silent and act completely normal around my family for 6 weeks while she solidified our legal case. Suppressing my anger during those agonizing weeks was the hardest thing I have ever done. When the tension became too much to bear, I sat Martha down at our kitchen table and revealed the terrible truth. She did not yell or cry. Instead, she grew incredibly quiet, which is always when she is most dangerous. She studied the forged signature with cold fury and noted how Natalie could remember coffee preferences but forge a signature so easily. Martha demanded that we proceed with a legal strategy immediately. By the 3rd week of July, Victoria had secured all the evidence we needed to prove the fraud. That Saturday, Connor and Natalie hosted a dinner party for the parents of Natalie, and I decided to confront them before the guests arrived. I wanted to look my son in the eye and hear his explanation. But when I reached the porch, Connor blocked the door, refusing to let me inside. Natalie emerged from the hallway, holding a kitchen towel and looking pale as she recognized the expression on my face. She tried to dismiss me, asking if this conversation could wait until her parents departed. I refused and openly declared that I knew about the forged power of attorney and the fake notary stamp. Natalie did not flinch. Instead, she claimed she was merely protecting our family assets for the future. I told Natalie that forging the stamp of a non-existent notary was not protection. It was a serious felony. Connor stood between us, desperately trying to defend her actions by claiming she was only trying to help us organize our estate. I looked at my son and asked him how a forged signature could ever be considered helpful. Neither of them could offer an answer, and their silence spoke volumes. I turned my back on them, walked directly to my car, and authorized Victoria to launch the legal onslaught. The state prosecutor charged Natalie with identity theft and first-degree forgery, which are severe crimes in our jurisdiction. She eventually avoided prison by pleading guilty to a single count of forgery, receiving 3 years of strict probation. She also lost her paralegal license and her job at the firm. The gourmet market owned by my son closed permanently, and the crushing debt forced them to liquidate everything. Connor and Natalie separated shortly after the scandal, and my son moved into a modest apartment across town. Our relationship is not fully repaired, but Connor now calls me twice a week to talk. He even sat next to me during our holiday dinner, which felt like a step toward healing. Martha had all the locks on our house replaced immediately, declaring that a family deserves to feel secure within their own walls. Today, our title is clean, and there are no threats looming over our property. Martha is currently in the kitchen, happily preparing dinner and muttering at a complicated recipe. Out on the back patio, Raymond is pretending to repair a lawnmower that is already in perfect working condition. I join Raymond on the porch, and we sit together in the peaceful evening air without needing to say a word. This painful ordeal taught me that the strongest structures require constant vigilance to keep them safe from decay. Sometimes, the people we love the most can drift into darkness when they are desperate. But truth has a way of restoring the foundation, allowing us to slowly rebuild what was nearly destroyed.